Hello everyone, my name is Jillian Margulies, but you guys can call me Jill. I'm going to pace a lot because that makes me feel more comfortable in front of people, there are groups more than two. So, I have been a vegan for about 2 years now and a vegetarian for almost 3. And when I first became a vegan, I decided that for me, I could not love animals and eat them at the same time. That was it. I knew that in my heart, and I knew nothing else. And through my journey, I've discovered so many different things. I've discovered health benefits. I've discovered that I feel better about myself waking up in the morning. And I've learned the environmental impact and the impact that I have on the planet each and every day of my life. And this is only information I've come across in the past couple months. And I think it's important that we are always learning and we are always evolving and we always can make changes in our life that can change the world. And so I just want you guys to give me 5-10 minutes of your time and just really, really listen about how you as an individual can absolutely change the world. You. I'm not saying that every person in this room needs to go vegan right now, but that'd be great. But I think that if you as an individual can do that, that would be spectacular. So I'm going to take us to fossil fuels, because that's something that we're very familiar with. So we know that fossil fuels usually get a bad rap for the environment. Fossil fuels usually get the bad rap for all the greenhouse gases that are in the atmosphere. We know that coal, oil, natural gas, the big three, they're the bad guys, they're the culprits. It actually turns out that coal, oil, and natural gas combined have a smaller carbon footprint than the livestock operations that are on planet Earth right now. World Watch is an environmental research organization, and they have concluded that 51% of our greenhouse gas emissions come from livestock and their byproducts, and 13% comes from their transport. And that is not just cow farts. So, as we can see here, methane is 20 times more powerful as the retaining heat than carbon is on Earth. And nitrous oxide is 300 times more powerful as the holding heat inside the Earth. And actually 65% of the nitrous oxide in our atmosphere comes from livestock and livestock operations. In 2014, the USDA came up with the Farm Bill. And one of the building blocks of the bill suggests that the release of anaerobic digesters, lagoon covers, composting, and solid separators would effectively reduce emissions from livestock. This is the equivalent of telling the industry to freely change their light bulbs and to recycle more. Now, these voluntary measures do not address the animal agriculture's impact on our environment. I'm going to take you guys to another something that you guys are very familiar with, the Amazon rainforest. Now, the Amazon rainforest covers over 1 billion acres, stretching over countries like Brazil, Venezuela, Colombia, Ecuador, and Peru. They are dubbed the lungs of our planet because about 20% of our oxygen actually comes from the Amazon rainforest. What you probably are not aware of is that 91% of the Amazon rainforest destruction is due to animal agriculture operations. That means that every second, 1 to 2 acres of rainforest is being completely demolished. And this is because we need land to grow our crops, to feed our animals for us to consume, right? And then we need to cut down trees so we can have room to raise our livestock for us to consume. So that means that for every hamburger that you eat from rainforest land, 55 square feet of forest has been destroyed. One hamburger. One hamburger. That's like nothing, right? Some of us eat like double Whoppers or triple Whoppers. I don't even know what those things are called. But, like, okay, so, yeah, there's 91. And then we also talk about palm oil a lot, and that really has a significant impact on orangutans. But that's not even half of animal agriculture. Why are we talking about palm oil when we could be talking about animal agriculture? But anyway, I digress. As we destroy the Amazon rainforest, about 137 animal, insect, and plant species are lost every single day due to the demolition of the animal rainforest. So in the U.S., it's going to take us to our home base right here. About half of the contiguous U.S. is devoted to raising animals and raising the crops to feed our animals. For those of us in this room who support pasture-based farming as a more effective way to raise animals, we would need about 320 million acres to sustain that. And we do not have the resources to sustain, and that's just for cows. We do not have the resources for that. And if we wanted to do that for all the goats and all the pigs and all the chickens and all the sheep, like that, we just do not have the resources to sustain that. And in the last 10 years, about 30 million free-living, non-human animals have been killed by wildlife services, and many of these animals were of endangered species. Wildlife Services is a branch of the USDA that is devoted to taking care of the free-living animals that threaten the products of the animal agribusiness. This has led to the use of, every year, millions of taxpayer dollars support the gassing, training dogs to rip these animals apart, strangling them in neck snares, and gunning them down by helicopter shooters. And these animals include golden bald eagles, armadillos, great horned owls, great blue herons, red-tailed hawks, black bears. Like, I could read you this whole list, but I know you guys are. So that means that if we even we did pasture-based farming, that would only increase the amount of animals that are being killed that we are not ourselves consuming. You know, we go to the store and we're like, well, Jill, why are you vegan? These animals are going to die anyway. Like, no. If I'm not going to eat it, I'm not going to support this industry. I'm not going to support the murder of these animals and the murder of the animals that are threatening the profits of the murdering of these animals. That was a little bit of a tangent right there. So, if we combine the 7 billion pounds of waste that are produced from the raising of livestock, and we combine that with the pesticides, herbicides, and chemical fertilizers used in the production of the crops to feed the animals that we want to eat, what we get are dead zones. And dead zones are defined as areas of large bodies of water that do not have enough oxygen to support marine life. This usually happens when there's an increase in chemical nutrients, which leads to an excessive blooms of algae, which depletes underwater oxygen levels. And all around the world this happens, so there's about 500 nitrogen-flooded dead zones around the world, which are due to agriculture spills. And this is a big problem right now, because over 1.2 billion people lack access to clean drinking water, and another 500 million people are approaching the same situation. We could bring that water to those who do not have access to it if we stopped using the water to grow the crops, to feed our animals, to feed us, and we stopped using this water to give water to the animals to drink and for us to eat. If a natural disaster ever occurred, we would have no problem finding enough resources for those who needed it. Out of the 7 billion people on Earth, about 1 billion people are starving or malnourished. That's one out of 7 billion people. That's about, and 6 million people, 6 million children starve to death each year, and that is 6,000 children every day, or 250 every hour. And that's just from starvation. And I'm not saying that, you know, I'm not trying to point my finger and say, like, you're causing children to die. Like, that's not what I'm trying to do. But I'm trying to say that we are so comfortably unaware of what we are actually doing to the planet and to the people around us. I mean, it takes, if humans consume the crops directly, instead of feeding them to animals, the world supply would receive an influx of approximately 70% more food, which could easily support another 4 billion people. Another 4 billion people. That means that we are growing enough food to feed 10 billion people. So why are 1 billion people out of 7 starving? Because it takes about 13 to 20 pounds of grain in order to increase a cow's muscle mass by 1 pound. That means that 13 to 20 times more people could receive a food supply if those products were consumed directly. 7 pounds of grain makes 1 pound of pork, and 4.5 pounds of grain makes 1 pound of chicken. And the question that people have asked me in the past is, Jill, where do you get your nutrients from? Where do you get your protein? Where do you get your vitamins and minerals? Like, what do those animals eat? Plants? So they make the plants make the things and the animals eat the things, so we eat the animals, so we get the things? Yeah. So that's actually an interesting fact. I found that last night. And that has to do with the fact that we are so unaware of that we could actually live easily just by eating plants. I mean, people don't think that you can survive on a vegan diet, but just saying. So what does the future look like? Alternative energy would take about 20 years to convert to wind and solar power and would cost about $43 trillion. And I'm a big supporter of alternative energy, don't get me wrong, but we have the power right now to not need to do that so urgently. You know, like we could do this right now in this room. Like we could decide that we don't need to do that right now and spend $43 trillion. So, like I said earlier, at least 50% of our grain is fed to livestock for own consumption. As a society, we would need to unite under the common purpose to end world hunger and to start caring about one another as a species. Our children and grandchildren could potentially enter a world where we could say that we, right here, took a stand against world hunger, that we here today decide that our compassion for other human beings outweighed our greed for human flesh. Animal flesh. I can't believe I just said that. Back on target. So most people look at me and ask, do you really think you're going to change the world, Jill? You're just one person. And every time I say that, it only takes one person to change the world. I'm going to go back to numbers now because I want to show you just how much of a difference you can make as one individual. The land that it takes to feed one vegan for 1 year is 1/6 of an acre. Vegetarians need 3 times as much, and meat eaters need 18 times as much as a vegan. 1/2 acres could and does produce 37,000 pounds of plant-based food and 375 pounds of meat. 375 to 37,000. That is a ratio that should stick in your head. A person who lives a vegan diet produces 50% less CO2, requires 1/11 the oil, and 1/13 the water consumption compared to a meat eater. Just one person. That's just one person for 1 year. That person could be you. That could be us. Imagine if all of us right now decide to stand together. Imagine what we could do. In this room we make a difference, but we can do better than that. The administration can pressure the USDA to redesign and apply a more refined plan to cut greenhouse gas emissions from livestock production. In the US, taxpayers pay over $38.4 billion a year in subsidies to food production, animal food production, and over $400 billion of external costs related to animal food production, which includes healthcare costs, environmental costs, animal cruelty, and fish production. Removing subsidies would allow for free trade and to balance our consumption habits towards commodities that would benefit the planet. So, returning to my original point, I'm not here to tell you that you right here in the audience, you're the problem. That's not my point today. I'm saying that now that we know this information, what are we going to do about it? If we are part of the problem, we can also be part of the solution. And you can become part of the solution today. Right here, right now, you can decide to be part of it. And I hope that you take this information and do something with it. Thank you.